Got a question from Danny Rubin. Good conversation. Thanks, Danny. How can ODU become more of a lab where startups can be born? ODU or just universities in general. How can this era 112,000 students go to school here? A plethora of different higher ed stuff. What can they do to get more startups out?
Well, happy to chat about this too. This is something we've worked on. So a lot of our LPs and big investment partners around the world are in the university space. So I think there's a couple of things, and I've been talking to Graham at William and Mary about this. I think William and Mary, VIMS, ODU. There's a lot of great universities. Howard, Christopher Newport, Norfolk State, which I'll be at tonight. Like there's so many universities, and I think there's a couple of things. Personally, I don't know enough about this, but having incubators on campus is really powerful. We always do these sort of like pre-accelerators, incubator things, non-dilutive, all about the process, all about iteration, doing customer development, all the kind of normal, Founders Institute type stuff, right? So it's all online, but there's something to be said about being in person with this crucible of both space and time, which I think, William Mary now has this beautiful place, the Entrepreneurship Center, that they finally got. I don't know enough about how ODU does this just yet. But like that's important to have this constant place where students like myself, when I was there, and this was irritating, that I could go to then exert this energy. Like I would go to the business school and there wasn't an entrepreneurship center. There weren't places for people like me to be hanging out and like in my free time working on this stuff. I've been mentoring a student from ODU for the last few months who hit me up on the Slack channel, and I don't know where that guy, or girl goes right on campus to like keep that energy going, right? And then you also have beyond that is how do you engage, which is something else that we also do, is help engage your alumni, because the alumni is where the value really is. And no offense to the professors, like they're all like really good moments in time, but most of them are not in the professional world anymore, right? So they're working on older data, and they can do my professors are great, like full stop. Like I would never say that's like not a benefit, right? But the only one that I had that was in the venture capital community was like 100 years old by the time he was my professor, right? And he was like quasi involved then, right? So I was getting like this very old school concept of venture capital that like wasn't actually really what I was interested in. And so what you need to do is you need to figure out how to engage the alumni. And I don't know about you all, but the only way most of the alumni, or I always get asked, is to send a check, right? Like that's the only way that anyone ever gets me involved. Sometimes you get like, do the homecoming, whatever, but that's not the most valuable thing that we offer, right? The most valuable thing that we offer is our time, our experience, our platforms, access, and you have to ask people for more. And that's something that I think a lot of the development offices on campuses have a hard time and struggle with. And I know William and Mary best because I constantly am poking the bear and like, yelling at him about stuff. And I think Graham's done a fantastic job with what he's got, what he's been given. And I think that all the other universities, which I'm happy to talk to anyone from any of these universities if you'd like, because we have certain plug and play services and models, but there's also stuff that has to be built custom. But you've got to do both. You've got to
is the Graham the missing piece at a university then? In that case, it's like, because I think most schools are building these things, whether it's a room in on campus somewhere. There, I think almost every university locally has something like that, but most of them, to my understanding, don't have a Graham, someone who within 5 years removed has sold a business, been in those shoes, has done that thing. Like, is that the missing piece? And that's really what they should try to pull in.
It seems like that was at William and Mary. Things definitely. He didn't have the speed or velocity that he wanted at first either, right? It was a slow burn, and then once he got to the president and left the business, school, which is where they were sort of incubated at first, and then he got a remit from the new president to go campus wide. That's when the afterburners turned on. So I would say it's kind of like the same thing if you look at any corporate. Like we work with corporate partners all over the world, right? Like in the U.S., you work with Manulife on InsurTech, we work with Schneider Electric on clean energy. Like you can I'll keep going down the list, but I won't even talk to a corporate unless I see that they have 3 to 5 hires with an innovation title, because what's the point? Like you put no money to work, right? Like you clearly don't think it's important. So real estate is cheap. Everyone has real estate. Universities in particular have lots of real estate. And like a donor to put a name on a wall and and get some free content online. Like that's not it, right? Like you definitely need like the heart and soul of a place is usually a person. Like if you look at an Evans at 757, or you look at Graham at William and Mary, or Somaya at University of Richmond, like there's people that are like the heart, right? Like the people. And it takes time, and usually they get burned out, right? Because it's not a very thankful job, and I think that brings in the second piece, which is the alumni. So once you get that person, you really do need to think about how to engage the alumni better. Like for me, this is the first time, coming back to William and Mary for homecoming in a long time. And I was freaking pumped. I was at, the university or the entrepreneurship center. And I was like, listen to this great entrepreneur from William and Mary who just sold his last business for $100 million. And he's starting this new thing. And I'm like, looking at the speaker series going like, holy shit. Like one of the co-founders of Hulu is a William and Mary, grad. I'm like, who knew? And like, you're like going through this stuff. And I'm like, okay, like every time I come to town, where am I going to go? I'm going there. Like, I'm not going to the business school. I'm not going to anywhere, but I'm just going to sit there and like co-work and talk to students and like roll up my sleeves. Right. And so I think certainly a person is a part of it, but I don't think a person without the support of, let's say, the provost, the president, whoever the boss at the very top is, not a university, a department, the top. Like, unless they're in, which by the way, any of their donors, right, could literally like burn this money tomorrow and not care, right? It is not material to a lot of their big donors. And then the benefit that you get by doing that is crazy. So, any presidents of any schools in Hampton Roads that want to talk, at Brinc.io. I'm happy to have this conversation.
Someone who's been directly involved within the startup community for almost a decade, I want to talk to you about a serious pain point: spending a ton of time trying to understand the business landscape in the 757. That's time that should be focused on growing the business. At StartWheel, we're here to help you by compiling all of the news you need to know about in one place. Now there's no need to search multiple websites. Just head to startwheel.org and see for yourself. That's startwheel.org.